All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to move on to our next fireside chat. It's focusing on a sector we haven't touched on yet that's critical to national strength and self-reliance, and especially relevant in the current moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is called Defense Tech and National Power, Building India's Strategic Edge. So to moderate the conversation, may I please invite on stage news anchor and principal correspondent of the Times Network, Ashish Parikh. Let's have you back on stage, sir. And joining him, we've got the Managing Director and CEO of Samtel Avionics, Puneet Kaura. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And we can't wait to see the direction that this conversation takes. Gentlemen, it's over to you. Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you once again, Pooja, for that introduction. Of course, national importance is what we would like to call it, the defense sector. And of course, India for the longest time was known as a very solid major importer of defense equipment. But over the last few years, thanks to government policies and also our local manufacturers and innovation, we are slowly turning the tide. But there's still a long gap between us being globally competent and also us being globally dominant. And what will it take to bridge that gap is what we'll explore in this session. And also, of course, how domestic manufacturers are making all the difference. So, Mr. Puneet, let's start with the most basic question. There's a lot of manufacturing happening in India when it comes to defense products. We are looking at a lot of innovation as well. But when you compare it to what the world needs right now, we of course know the sort of era that we are in right now, everything that's happening around the world, there will be a lot of need for defense equipment. Do you think Indian companies are up there? Are in terms of quality, in terms of technology, are we right up there to compete with global players?
First of all, thank you for having me over and to speak here, Ashish, and thanks to the ET Now team. Coming to your question, I think if you first of all go back and look at what's going on in the world today, actually we have quite a disturbed situation. We have multiple wars happening in different parts of the world, and just was talking to somebody and somebody was saying it's the new normal, and I was like, it's not a good normal to be with. But coming to your question, which is focused towards the defense, which actually comes right at the heart of all this, I think when you look at the companies in India, we have a mixed bag. So let's look at the slightly helicopter view and slightly overall what's going on as far as innovation is concerned, since you touched upon it. When you talk about innovation, we're talking about developing capabilities within our country. Actually, if you look at the global index, we are not doing so well as a country. We are at about 0.2% of our GDP that we spend on defense, but innovation. Global average is about more than 5%. So, and that 5% of the GDP is being done by countries which are already developed in terms of technologies, not only in defense, but many other areas. We can talk about, IT, you can talk about healthcare, overall electronics, many, domains. That's the kind of a big picture. When you come to defense, I think we have a mixed bag, like I said. We have some companies which are doing path-breaking work on developing technologies. And there are few which are, already we keep on hearing from. Recently, CDS was talking about technologies being imported and we should stop, especially in the area of drones. We hear a lot of, just white labeling happening or maybe very little value add taking place, which is what we want to stop. I think basic question that we need to answer is, if we really want to see a Viksit Bharat 2047, till we don't have a very strong ecosystem of developing technological capabilities within the country, we'll never achieve that goal. And I think from that perspective, we at least play a small role in that domain. We serve the Indian Armed Forces with products which are completely indigenously developed and manufactured. So the technology is totally developed by us. And I think, as I said, as far as industry is concerned, we have some players who are also doing similar, quite exemplary work. But we have a long way to go.
Right. For the longest time, defense manufacturing was done by public sector undertakings. Now, with a lot of these private companies like Samtel Avionics also coming in, do you think innovation has also come in? Just help us understand the kind of work you're doing at Samtel. Let's say, for example, which was not possible 10 to 15 years back before all of these private players came in. What is the sort of innovation you've been able to do because you're a private player and you've got a very clear vision?
I think we basically have been an electronics company. We've been around for more than 50 years. So we picked upon the area where we were strong in, which was the electronics domain. We partnered with Hindustan Aeronautics way back in 2007, 2008, and we developed capabilities. So a lot of products that were flying during the Operation Sindoor were actually using electronics and products made by Samtel and the Samtel HAL joint venture. That was a very proud thing for us. But coming to your particular question, yes, the sector was dominated primarily by public sector players. But what has happened is over the last many years, the new defense production procedures that have come out and the more kind of make in India push, especially in the last 10, 12 years with under Prime Minister Modi, I think is transforming this sector quite a bit. And private sector is obviously coming up in a big way. We now hear about projects like AMCA, which is the advanced, the next generation aircrafts, which will not go to actually HAL. It will go to private sector. It's very clear now. So government is very clear. They want to build an infrastructure in the private sector. And there is an ecosystem that needs to be built along with it. If we have aircraft manufacturers, we need system integrators, electronic manufacturers, actually a fighter aircraft, for example, or even a fighter helicopter. A significant part of it is electronics and software, 25 to 35%. That's where companies like us come in. Most of what we do used to be all imported. So we have actually replaced imports almost in entirety. HAL doesn't import these products anymore, which is actually, in true Atmanirbharta in a real sense. And I believe that we have set a path, not only for ourselves, but in our country, we see many more examples, just coming to your first question as well, where we see these center of excellences helping India becoming more and more Atmanirbhar.
We've actually seen this pattern before. Even in the US, their space program was pretty solid. It was the best in the world. Yet they opened up to private players, and we've seen the sort of development that's happened, the cost cutting as well that's happened as well, plus the innovation that's also come in. Do you think the government is doing enough? Just help us understand the support that you're seeing, because you told me you've been in the business for a very long time. Just help us understand the sort of support you're getting from the government and also the sort of innovation that you're able to do, like you said, able to contribute to the whole ecosystem.
I think I must say that government has really, over the last few years, changed the way they used to deal with private sector. And I can see the openness, the kind of, meetings we have with all stakeholders, whether it's the armed forces or MOD, even the PSUs, of course. They look at private sector more as a partner now. And I think that's a change that is very evident on ground. But if you really look at the, like you took an example of space sector. By the way, we are also looking at space at Samtel. We are looking at developing low Earth orbit satellites. And we are looking at, that's a very vibrant space around the world with what's going on. And we feel there's a huge opportunity there. But and aerospace and defense and space actually are quite interlinked. But coming to, again, your question, I think, yeah, I feel that there is definitely a lot of good work that's going on, but we would probably need more hand-holding in terms of still at the early stages, especially the startups, although there is a huge startup drive and we have IDEX and we have a lot of programs that support the startups and we see a lot of examples, but then a lot of them we hear also perish very quickly. So I think that hand-holding has to be slightly more structured. In terms of how do you look at the ecosystem and you develop it, not just at the initial phase, but maybe phase 2, phase 3 as well. And I think that's where we can probably do some more improvement.
Absolutely. beyond manufacturing, one of the biggest focuses has been on technology ownership also. And when it comes to developing technology and owning it, a lot of R&D is required. And as you'd agree, a lot of investment, patient capital is required, wherein it takes years of hard work before we actually develop and mature an ecosystem. Do you think such capital is available in India, or do you think everyone is so obsessed with early exits or quarterly results that, it just doesn't leave us room to innovate and build something of our own?
I think capital in this sector has started to come in a big way. I mean, if you look at just look at the stock market, look at the defense stocks. Market has been falling, defense stocks don't fall. I think it's actually also what the environment, what's going on in the ecosystem, but around the world. But I would say that, we just raised some capital last year. We got very good response from the market. I hear from my peers that there is enough capital that is available to be for this sector, and not only for this sector, the new areas we're getting into. So I think that the trend has changed. There is trust in the sector. They feel that, more importantly, I must point out one thing. I did briefly talk about it, but Operation Sindoor actually changed a lot of what the perception of this industry was all about. Not only within the country, but globally also. And I think what's happened is, from claiming, we actually were able to demonstrate battle-proven products. And what happened with that is that it actually brought about a lot of confidence in terms of course, the stakeholders and the potential customers, but also people who would invest into this space. I think that was, the turning point in my view, if I look at the last 1 year. And we have not looked back after that. So yeah, I think there is enough capital that wants to support this sector, and it will only become more and more in the years to come.
So clearly you made a calamity into an opportunity, which is any sign of a good innovator. But just help me understand the roadmap at Samwell Avionics. What's the next big thing you're planning? What's the roadmap for you ahead? Because again, let's not hope there's a war so that your stocks go up again. But besides the war, what is the next opportunity that you're looking at?
I think, I don't want wars. I want peace. That's for sure. But I think if I look at the opportunity and I look at where we are first of all into multiple different types of electronic domains, which includes optronics as another space, which is Army, Air Force, Navy, domestic and overseas. We sell to multiple companies overseas, Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, and also multiple European customers and some US customers as well. So that is organic growth. We are also looking at inorganic, where we are looking at some acquisition targets overseas and into some new domains. Space is one very exciting area, which I just touched upon earlier as well. So I feel that would be a very major kind of focus area for us in the years to come. We are also looking at drones, like many other players, but I think we are definitely going to have whatever we do in this drone space also would be more like indigenous technology. So that is something which will be has been at the heart of our journey so far, and it will continue to be.
Do you think there are some concerns, given the fact that when you collaborate with a global player in terms of technology, and then you become a contractor with the Indian government, a defense contractor with the Indian government, there are questions that obviously are asked about the safety of data, the technology, and also whether it is risky for India as well. How do you mitigate those concerns?
Yeah, I think if you really want to develop some products very, very fast based on the demands of the customer, we would need partnerships. But I think what we are kind of doing together with the government is, as part of SIDM and CII working with the government, we are looking at basically in the DPPs a very clear demarcation of what we must get in terms of transfer of technology as a must. If that's
there are some guardrails in place, is what you're saying?
Yes, and I think that is what basically discriminates one offer compared to the other. So if you are not complying with that and you're not giving a deep tech to a level which is making you reasonably self-reliant, I think Indian government is not going to buy that particular product. So the goal is to partner with Indian company and give that product to the Indian government or Indian armed forces, but there are certain guidelines which protect. But having said that, even then, certain jewels, as you call them for the, the technology part, companies don't want to, let them go. So it's a tricky walk, but we are walking in the right direction.
Right. So that was the intention of the question, to understand how exactly do you navigate this tricky situation, because given the situation right now across the world, the geopolitical situation, pretty sure you will wind up in one of those situations. Mr. Puneet, appreciate you joining us here. Big round of applause for Mr. Puneet here, speaking about technology and also Atmanirbharta, which also the Prime Minister has envisioned.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for having me.